everyone, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Jamie.
And in this short video, we're going to be celebrating some autumnal highlights and celebrating this brilliant season. Now, depending on where you're watching from, there'll be different rules in place around coronavirus restrictions.
But that doesn't mean you have to stop enjoying nature. Whether you have a garden, a window, or just a device you're watching this on, there's always a way to bring wildlife into your life.
So first of all, we wanted to let you know that the RSPB's Breakfast Birdwatch is back from Monday. You might have taken part back in spring, and we're having another go during autumn. So you can join in between 8 and 9 a.m. every weekday on Twitter. And we're going to be chatting about the birds that we see. We'll be helping you with any ID inquiries and any other questions that you might have. So this morning I've been having a nosy out the window, and I've actually seen house sparrows on my feeders for the first time in a few weeks. So I'm absolutely made up at that. What about you, Jamie? Have you seen anything?
I have seen plenty of house sparrows too, and I think I've now got the recipe right to attract house sparrows, and it seems to be a combination of sunflower hearts and something for them to hide in. So when we moved into this new build property a couple of years ago, it was a blank slate. So my husband and I had to do quite a lot to start converting it into a wildlife garden. And we planted teasels, among other things, which have attracted goldfinches. But we've also got a few shrubs in now. And as the shrubs have grown and developed and bushed out a little bit, the sparrows have grown in confidence, and as the weather's dropped, the temperature has dropped over the last few weeks, the sparrows have been flocking in, and they are very confident on the feeders, pushing the goldfinches out the way, and then diving for cover if they need to. So that seems to work. Have you got the same kind of setup with your garden?
Excellent. Yeah, I've got an absolutely monstrous ivy bush at the back of my garden. It's huge. It's overtaking the shed, but I'm letting it because I love it. And that is obviously a lovely little place for, well, all sorts of birds to hide. We have had a few little wood mice coming out of it and getting on the feeders as well. But yeah, the sparrows seem to love it. And it's strange because they were the most common bird, obviously for Big Garden Birdwatch, they're always top of the charts, aren't they? They were the most common bird earlier this year when I was counting the birds in my garden, but they just went quiet for a few weeks. But it's really nice to have them back amongst the tits and the rather bolshy robin that's on there all the time. So yeah, so that's birds. Birds are obviously a great thing to spot at this time of year, but it's all about that seasonal wildlife for us. And one of my favourite things to spot in autumn is fungi, and going on a mushroom hunt is a great activity. So I recently headed down to one of our nature reserves, RSPB Coombs Valley in Staffordshire, and I had a poke about in the leaf litter for some fungal finds. Here is what I found.
Okay, so first of all, what actually are fungi? Well, they're a really weird group of organisms, and we most often encounter them in the form of mushrooms or toadstools. We have over 15,000 species in the UK, and they live everywhere, from the soil to wood to plants to animals to water. They're even in the air. And at this time of year after summer, when all the plants are breaking down, it's the perfect time to go out mushroom hunting. So I'm going to find 5 species that should be easy to ID, see if you can spot them. Okay, fungi number 1 is this beauty. Now this is the birch polypore, and as you can see, it grows to be absolutely humongous. Look at the size of that next to my hand. It grows on dead birch, and it does actually kill birch trees, which might sound bad, but it's actually a really good thing because so many different types of insects rely on rotting wood like birch, and birds like the lesser spotted woodpecker will excavate their nest hole in them. Now, the alternative name of this fungus is the razor strop fungus, and that's because if you break it off and let it dry, it is so tough you can actually use it to buff metal. So people used to polish old-fashioned cutthroat razors with this fungus. How cool is that? Number 2 is this gang of weird looking things. Now there's a few species that all look quite similar, but these are the earth balls. I like to call them ground spuds because they look a little bit like weird warty potatoes. You'll find them in clusters like this on the ground, and these ones are quite young, you can hear. They sound like little bongos. But as they get older, they'll weaken and they'll go all wrinkly and gross. And then when you flick them, they'll burst and release their spores all over the forest. They're absolutely brilliant things. Okay, for number 3, I'll have to crouch down, and that's because it's this beauty. This is the amethyst deceiver. It can be a really, really bright purple, as is suggested by the name. And the best place to look for it is under beech trees. So if you can identify a beech tree by its leaf, have a root around in the leaf litter, and you might see these mushrooms poking out. There's often hundreds around, and as they get older and drier, they can turn really, really pale purple and almost white. So see if you can spot one. Okay, I found fungi number 4, and this is a brilliant one for Halloween. It's extra spooky. Once again, it's down low, so I'm going to flip the camera around to show you. Okay, hopefully you can see this. This is dead man's finger. It's such a weird looking fungus. Look at that. Pretty sure you can tell where it gets its name from. These spooky looking fingers that protrude out of dead wood. So check out any logs when you find them and you might just spot one. And I'm down on the floor again for number 5. Now, when we say mushroom or fungi or toadstool, it tends to be this that you picture. This iconic mushroom is the fly agaric. Now, normally it's got quite a few more white spots than this, and we have just had a heavy bout of rain, so they do tend to wipe off. Fly agaric, Amanita muscaria, keep an eye out for this time of year. It's the perfect fungi to round off a mushroom hunt. When you're looking at fungi, remember to be safe, don't taste anything, and always wash your hands afterwards. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more, you can get a fungi guide. Now, this one's a bit chunky, a bit in depth, but on the RSPB's website, we have got a fungi part of our wild challenge, so you can download the sheet for free, work out what you're looking at, and see how many you can tick off. Thanks very much for watching, and enjoy your mushroom hunt.
Now, do you have nest boxes up at home for birds? Because this time of year is the perfect time to clean them out, ready for the coming seasons, whether that be for small birds to roost in there over winter to keep warm, or the nesting season when it begins in spring. I had a chat with Charlotte from our Wildlife Inquiries team, who explained what you need to do.
Best way to do it is to take out the leftover nests. If there are any eggs left in there though, please do dispose of them. You cannot keep the eggs. Yeah, empty it out. I would pre-warn you though, when you go to empty it, make sure you stand back with gloves on and just open it up gently, just in case it's full of some parasites and some flies and things like that. Best way to clean it out, take out everything in there, then rinse it through with boiling water and allow to dry naturally on a nice sunny day, and then put it back up. Don't put it back up wet. And you can also put things like sawdust in there to make it a bit cozier over winter. The blue tits or the house sparrows or whatever you use it the next year, you'll tend to find that they will take out that material. That doesn't mean it's bad, it's just they put their own stamp on it and making their own nest.
And the material that you clear out, you could put into your compost heap perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, double check for nasties first, but yeah, if it seems okay, why not? Yeah.
Now it's the last episode of the ever amazing Autumn Watch tonight. Really looking forward to it, and it's been an absolutely brilliant series. We've obviously been really lucky. We've been treated to 2 weeks rather than one, which has just dragged out that beautiful season that little bit more for me. We've really particularly enjoyed seeing Gillian at one of our nature reserves. So RSPB Oldmoor in South Yorkshire. It's a lovely little nature reserve nestled in the middle of an urban area, and it's got a really interesting industrial history as well. So we think Gillian's done an excellent job at showing off the reserve. What about you, Jamie? Have you been watching?
I think my highlights have been those mindfulness moments where you completely switch off and tune into what you're seeing on the screen and what you're hearing, because a lot of us double screen these days. We might be chatting on Twitter about Autumn Watch while it's on, but when that comes on the TV, my phone goes to one side and I'm totally focused on what's happening. And I really enjoyed one the other day, which was an estuary, and there was a little egret slowly wading through the water, snatching at fish, and then a kingfisher darted out of nowhere and that was catching fish as well. It was just stunning. So really, really enjoyed this series, and it's been an absolutely cracking one. But once the show's off air, do not despair. We've still got plenty of wildlife themed videos for you to enjoy. Our YouTube channel is a really good place to start. And here are some clips of videos you can watch on there right now.
Possible that we have either corncrake adults or corncrake chicks in here. There have been male corncrakes calling in this area, so we never know if they've bred, if they've produced a brood or not, but if they have, this is the kind of place that they're going to be running around in.
Head over to youtube.com/RSPB video to see these videos and more in full.
And we'd love to know what you'd like us to talk about in our next video, so do get in touch.
Whether it's how to feed birds in your garden, what you're seeing out of your window, or even what you can do at home to help nature and conservation, drop us an email or get in touch by commenting under this video.
And we'll leave you with some more beautiful and gorgeous autumnal scenery to enjoy.
Thank you very much for watching.